Oh, do your fucking clap. The fucking most useless thing.
Fuck it, bro.
For
You
production.
gotta clap in. It's just like how you clap into class. I mean, or to technique. All right, everyone.
Like a
all right.
bow in.
Does anybody see that one more time? Any questions? We're good. All right, 1, 2.
You'll be getting a lot of that in your first jiu-jitsu class. For anyone that hasn't had any, but that's there's like the bowing, there's the shaking hands, there's the oosing.
Yeah, I get.
Oh
yeah.
God.
Fix the middle just a little bit. It was like peaking. Yeah, just make one overlap the other. All right, beauty.
That shit.
Yeah, well, I get it.
As long as it's not like fucking egregious, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
Just peeking.
fucking holy shit! It is Sunday, February the 11th, 2024.
Oh yeah, brother. Welcome back. We got another one for you, and another one.
With a few upgrades from the last one. So let's give him an upgrade rundown again.
Upgrade alert! Upgrade alert!
Upgrade alert! Upgrade alert! We got ourselves an audio interface. Cool little toy. Because we had issues in our last one with audio. USB is always going to be inferior to fucking XLR.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Without a shout of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt. What is it?
Shadow of a doubt.
Shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, 100%. I'm sure.
Are you
bro.
fucking sure?
Yeah, bro.
We
without a
really
shadow of a doubt. So the idea is like there's no shadow. So there's like the shadow is doubt.
Why the fuck did I say shout, bro?
I don't know, because you're fucking autistic.
Bro, I swear. Bro. Yeah, well, fuck.
You got the tism, bro.
Fucking very well could be. But what else? We had the audio interface. We have the fucking, finally, the third or the second set of curtains that we've been waiting on.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Bro, you just had a trailer park moment.
It's been without
a shadow. I'm saying that from now on. Without a shadow of a doubt.
Because when people say it, they say it pretty quick.
Yeah.
They say it quick so that it sounds like one syllable. So this whole time I thought it was without a shout of a doubt.
Even at work, I say that all the time. I'm like, yo, worst case Ontario. I'm like, actually, no, worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Like scenario.
Did
right?
you say Ontario?
I say Ontario all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was one time where some guy like realized that it was a Trailer Park Boys reference and he was dying, bro.
Is he Canadian too?
Yeah. No, he
has
works
to
in
be.
Canada. Yeah.
Are Trailer Park Boys even
It's
big?
big in America, apparently.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Because they shot that whole series over in the East.
I want to
East
say
Coast.
Scotia. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it was in Halifax or something.
Halifax. Yeah. That's what I heard as well. That is
Legendary show.
if you guys if anyone tuning in hasn't
checked it out.
checked out the Trailer Park Boys.
I haven't seen it like end to end, like all the
I haven't
or whatever.
either.
Just like how I haven't seen The Office, like, but I can appreciate like the clips that I have seen of it.
You haven't seen The Office?
I haven't watched The Office really. No.
The Office is fantastic.
It's funny. Yeah.
The Office
No, I
is fantastic.
know. It's just I don't know. I can't sit down and watch like.
Well, you're on One Piece right now.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
yeah.
So honestly, one show is enough.
One show is all you need.
And yo, let's talk about it, bro. Because
I'm down. Dude, let's talk about it, bro.
After finishing,
let's talk about it, bro.
We could run, yes, and perhaps
we've been meaning to talk about.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it would be cool to just give an update of like where I'm at. So basically, just a rundown.
Well, full disclaimer: we're not the best when it comes to watching what we say on this. So if there is any spoilers, they're
bro, yeah, I guess, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm not. We won't say anything like too spoilery, but yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm like 200 episodes behind, bro. You know what I mean?
Which is like, that's like a
month. What's it at now?
Like
1,000, 1,100 or some shit like that.
Yeah, like 1 or
something like that, right? Yeah. Okay, so I'm about 200 episodes behind.
Which is like you can catch up in like months.
Bro. I'm actually taking my sweet time with Wano.
You're knocking on heaven's door right now.
Yeah, no, it's dope. But yeah, okay, so let's finish the rundown.
Oh, so the fucking upgrade alert. So we got the curtains, we got the audio interface. Made a few changes on the back end, and so man, like setting up a podcast, it's quite the job, man. There's
a lot more if you want to do a bang up job of it where it's like acceptably like at least some level of quality. Especially if you don't come from that background, you need to kind of do your work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
To come up with some quality production, I think there's definitely a lot more steps than it appears.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. It's more than meets the eye as far as what the job entails. But but yeah, we got the setup going, man. We got the setup going. It's a solid fucking setup, man. I definitely think there's a lot more to do production wise. I say to do with an asterisk because like at the end of the day, it's all about the quality when it comes to podcasts.
I mean, look, this is just bare bones, I think, of a setup in general. This is just covers the main important bases. But I think it's a strong foundation that we can launch off from. You know what I mean? We're just like upgrading as we go, but we're keeping it simple.
There's levels to it, right? There's the first one that comes to mind when it comes to like high quality production, like as far as it being kind of on the same vein as like a talk show, like a nightly talk show would be like the Schultz Flagrant podcast, right?
I think that's on the one end of the spectrum for sure.
And then on the other end of the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you have very low
Matt and Shane's like secret podcast.
Yeah,
bro.
Matt and Shane's secret
but
podcast.
The crazy part about it is, I think fundamentally, what's the most important is actually the audio, even over video. Like video is almost like the cherry on top. You could have something that looks cool.
People love video though, bro.
Yeah, no, 100%. But I think if you were to lump up, okay, how many people listen to podcasts versus how many people watch podcasts, I think you have way more listeners. Like I listen to podcasts more than I watch them, for example, right? I'll usually on drives or whatever driving between Hamilton and Saga. But yeah, I mean, it's a cherry on top. And then why I say this, just because you have something just because something's very well produced in terms of like the set, in terms of the lighting, in terms of everything else, in terms of the audio, doesn't mean that you have a good podcast. I think the more important skill is just like, is it engaging? Is it like funny? You know what I mean? Like, well, it depends on what you're trying to go for. But I guess what I'm getting at is, even though Schultz's podcast is definitely like more highly produced, I think Matt and Shane's podcast is still the better podcast in my opinion, in terms of like just how many laughs I get. You know what I mean? Like, they're both comedy podcasts, but I, even though Matt and Shane's is not as well produced, their audio is the only thing that's actually consistently like done well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Audio as a bare minimum has to be crispy. But I think like isn't the numbers as far as their what was it? What's that fucking app where Patreon? Yeah, the Patreon. There's like the numbers speak for itself. Like Matt and Shane's is at like 80,000 or something versus the Flagrant podcast, which is at like 16 to 20. And so there it just goes to show. Yeah.
Their Patreons, huh?
Yeah.
That's for like, that's behind a pay gap.
Well, I think it's, I don't know if it's
behind a pay gap. No.
Yeah.
It's behind a paywall.
It's behind some fucking systemic racism, bro.
It's the patriarchy.
Nah, but I think I don't know. That might be a cumulative number across all of their like Patreon like apps or whatever. Like they have.
What does that mean? Is like that's subscribers.
Yeah, subscriber base.
That's subscribers. So that means
like
it also depends.
It's kind of like their OnlyFans.
It also depends on how much their subscriptions are for each. So like, if Matt and Shane's is $2 per month versus
that could be a factor,
which is like $20 a month, then that could be
in
terms of how much a month that is for each. Even though Matt and Shane's is way more in terms of individual subscribers.
Yeah,
Flagrant can still be making way more.
That's true. I don't know. $20 a month for.
I wonder if that's a direction that we want to go. Just a Patreon later on.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, the thing with this, and the thing why I have to push back a little bit on something you said about how video is a cherry on top. I think video is as crucial in today's social media as the audio and the quality.
Cherry on top in a sense that what's most important is audio in terms of just
for
like
podcast,
a podcast. Yeah. You definitely have iconic moments that happen on video that you just can't get on like audio. So for example, I think that's a big reason why Spotify even added video to the platform in the first place, because of Joe Rogan. And they were like, I think at first Joe was talking about how like he didn't mind it as much, that it was just going to be audio. But I think he was saying how it was like his manager or somebody was just like, no, you need to push for video, because you won't have like iconic moments like Elon like smoking weed and like, you know what I mean, because that went crazy viral, right? Yeah, so absolutely, like, you know, no, video overall is still very important, but I meant in the context of a podcast. Yeah, it like the audio is the most important.
Audio is the most important.
Yeah.
I'll put video definitely up there, but I agree 100%. If you were to take the top 3 and rank them, audio is number 1. I would say video would be number 2 or
100%.
Or 3rd. Yeah, 100%. Bro, honestly, even before audio, I would argue the content though. Like I would argue the actual like what the podcast is about. The content.
I agree.
Itself.
Yeah, the content itself is king, but
that's the podcast Trinity Force. Yeah,
is that production? I mean, I don't know, but I meant in terms of like everything that you can like from a technical standpoint. Like video, like video production, and even like your post prod. You know what I mean? There are some podcasts that are like highly like post production versus not. Seguru's system is really fucking interesting, because he does a lot of like the video back and forth, but I think he has like a whole production team that's like, you know, managing that on the back end.
Because I mean, it is a fucking, it's a big lift production wise, man.
Yeah.
It's a big lift, and honestly, I think there's an opportunity somewhere in there, because this is just a growing industry. It's honestly, I think it's going to be just going to get even bigger.
I think it's just going to get bigger. I think it's still very much in its early infancy.
I think it's like that 5-year-old kid right now. That's, you know, you look at him, he's like, that kid's got some potential, you know?
Yeah.
But still fucking just 5 years old, you know?
I wonder how that platform is going to expand even more, though. Especially with a lot of this like augmented reality stuff. You see that did we talk about that last week?
Vision Pro? Yeah.
Did we?
We did.
It's wild, bro.
Yeah.
And that technology is only going to get better. That's like when the iPhone first came out. Remember the clunky iPhone, like first gen iPhone compared to now?
Yeah.
Give that technology 10 years. It might just be literally just like your Wayfarer glasses, and then you're able to do all those things.
Well, we're also not just that when it comes to AR, but also AI. The AI that we're looking at today is just
exactly.
You know,
now combine those two technologies, you could be wearing glasses and like it's feeding you all this information. And it's also like there's maybe some way where it now connects to the Neuralink, which is also still kind of like it's in its first gen.
We're just slowly but surely becoming robots. Cyborgs.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think to Elon's point, it's just like, man, if you can't beat him, you got to join him. You got to like integrate with him so that you almost have a chance. Because if it's just straight up like us without any kind of upgrades like that versus just straight up AI, I think eventually you're just gonna lose. Like the progress is just gonna outpace just what humans can do from an evolutionary standpoint, right? So you're kind of like what he's doing with a Neuralink is kind of exactly is kind of giving you upgrades. You would think, right? So
the next step of that, because we still haven't figured out fucking how to beat cancer or cure these other what I would call what are they? They're like chronic diseases, right? Like even like eczema, personally speaking, right?
Eczema.
That would be the next fucking. I would think that would be the one of the final iterations of Neuralink would be.
What do you mean?
You know, because Neuralink today is helping rewire and helping folks that are paraplegic be able to move and function using their body again through the nerves. I would think the next step or the next one of the iterations of that would be to help with chronic diseases, like things like cancer. That
I think, that AI application of that is AI is going to help identify those chronic diseases way sooner than what traditional means can do.
Right.
But I think what you're referring to is
just medicine in general, bro.
I think that that space is going to be impacted a lot by gene splicing, like gene editing, basically.
Yeah.
And that's a big frontier that no one's really talking about in the main zeitgeist right now, is just the advances in terms of genetic like engineering, where you could literally, there's going to come a time where you can literally like determine what a baby's attributes are going to be before it's born. Oh, do you want it to be a certain height? Do you want it to have certain color eyes? Do you want to have a certain like intelligence? So that's where it gets kind of tricky, because now if you we're talking about the separation of power between, you know, different classes of people, how it is today. But can you imagine when one class of people that has access to this kind of technology, and they're having children that already have these physical or even like mental like advantages just genetically? You're almost creating another subspecies of humans that are going to be just like some universal soldier level type of like attributes. And now people that don't have access to that technology, like, you know what I mean? They're going to be left in the dust. They're almost going to be a different kind of species at that point, right?
Fuck, man. It's scary, man. It's scary, but it's also really exciting. Like for just the past, looking back the past week, just looking at tools that I could use for the production of this. It's crazy what kind of AI tools are out there that, again, it's still this iPhone 1 iteration right now. You know what I mean? And to think that it's only going to get better in like less of a time that the iPhone got better. Like the iPhone really rose to where it is now over the past 10 years,
20 years.
AI. And just the amount of like smarter people that are in that space because of like the rise of technology over the past decade, the past 2 decades, are all just going to feed into like just this, what I think is going to be growth. An exponential growth curve.
Unless something happens where like war, for example, right? We could get into that. I mean, you could also argue that war is also a great reason for technologies to advance, but you know, it slows down on innovation macroeconomically, obviously, because people are not focused on a lot of the shit that's outside of war application. You know what I mean? What was I getting at though? Like,
that war thing that you brought up. We saw over the past week, Tucker fucking interviewed.
Oh, sorry. I came back to me. Okay, so what I was getting at is, before we get into that, actually, is what's crazy about all these advances in technology and just what's going on, like with all these different spaces, whether it be like energy or just like AI, AR, you know, like microchips and everything that's involved, is that before, back in the day when there was a major advancement, it would be like one thing, 2 things at a time that were going on. So people kind of like had an easier time to kind of adapt to that. But now all these things are changing in all sorts of different areas at the same time. And it's almost like too much information for the general masses to really adopt a lot of that stuff. So that's where it gets a little bit kind of tricky when it comes to some of these technologies, where like it probably should be regulated, a lot of these things, you know what I mean? Like it probably should be regulated in terms of what can you do to like an embryo. Like, did you hear about that Chinese scientist that basically accidentally made these kids way smarter by accident, quote unquote, and then he got arrested? Yeah.
How that
so
happened?
I forget, like he made them and you could look this up. So Chinese doctor gets arrested gene editing kids smarter or something like that. I think he was allegedly trying to treat some sort of chronic disease like you were talking about, but a result of whatever he was doing with the gene editing eventually made them, like, the embryos X amount of times smarter.
This was back in, it looks like this is back in 2019.
Yeah, 2-3 years ago, exactly.
He, Jian Kui, has been variously referred to as rogue scientist, China's Dr. Frankenstein, and a mad genius. The impact of human gene editing on resistance to HIV infection and other body functions in experimental infants remains controversial. What the fuck's he who's a doctor that got jail for gene editing? Same guy. Yeah. He was later sentenced to 3 years in prison for, quote, illegal medical practices for the world's first gene edited babies, Lulu and Nana. Those are fucking gene edited fucking baby names for sure. Lulu and Nana. Oh, those twins. So I guess these are the twins that got quote unquote super smart. They're now aged 4 as of February 10th, 2023.
Are they actually smarter?
I don't know. It says here that they have normal peaceful
college graduates now.
Oh, I just said that they're 4. Oh, I see. Right, because they're fucking
some child baby.
Right.
Some child genius.
Yeah.
Child baby.
Fuck. Well, that's
crazy though, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the stuff that you just hear about in the news. That's the stuff that gets out.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what's going on like under wraps? Like,
well, fuck, bro. Some Area 51 shit, man.
Brother.
Like, what the hell is going on out there, man?
Brother.
Yeah.
Would you run something like that if you had like the resources of like, yo, you could choose how tall they are, they could choose how smart they are, you could choose, their color skin, their color eyes, their color hair.
I think bare minimum, the thing that I would like to have control over, and I sometimes think about this, and this is good. This is borderline cancelable, but like it's like to control if like it came out with some kind of like tick or like some kind of tism,
Yeah.
Just something like that, man.
Yeah.
And I have no fucking
nothing against it.
Nothing against it.
Of course.
I've heard that fucking people with Down syndrome are like a fun ass time, and you can see them, bro.
They're bros.
Every single because there's just like there are a lot of fucked up people. I don't know if they're fucked up, but like I think it's a little fucked up that and maybe I don't know. Maybe this is just my stupid brain, but when I see like families kind of like put their Down syndrome relative on TikTok, it's just like
That's kind of weird, right?
Part of me is kind of weirded out because it's just like,
yeah. For
but
content.
then the other part of me that's more the optimistic side is like, I guess the first side
shining
is more
a light on it.
Yeah, shining a light on it, kind of sharing the joy.
I go through the same thing, man.
Yeah.
Like, but some of the content you could tell is like, yo,
yeah,
like especially the ones that are like where they adopt the child.
Oh,
that's where it's kind of weird.
That's where it's kind of weird.
Because it doesn't feel. Sometimes it doesn't feel like. I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting my own head where it doesn't feel like it's genuine. Where
like
it's
a celebrity,
they're just using it as a way to get likes and whatnot. You know what I mean? Man, like how many of these kids that you see today that are gender, let's say, advocates and whatnot, and not to say I have anything against this or whatever in terms of. Like, if you want to identify as who you're going to identify. Don't make them up. Like, to me, whatever. It's your life, right? But you have some of these kids where it's just like, I wonder what the percentage is where it's just the parents that are kind of wanting to have that as almost like a way for them to say, hey, I'm with the tribe. So they'll influence their kids in such a way that now their kids are almost having gender dysmorphia as a result. It's almost like how do you say it? Munchausen syndrome. Munchausen syndrome.
Beast me.
That's what like Eminem's mom had. Where so look at it. Like, can you look? Do you mind looking up Munchausen syndrome? Munchausen
syndrome. Where best to spell that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's
so Munchausen syndrome?
Yeah.
Is a psychological disorder marked by attention-seeking behavior by a caregiver through those who are in their care.
Yeah.
MSP.
So right. How much of that? Where like because like. How much does a kid know about that? You know what I mean? Like a child know about like gender, politics, and whatever. Like when you and I were growing up, you don't. They're freaking children. You know what I mean? And like I remember seeing one clip where one kid was just like, you could tell the kid was like, yeah, but that's what my mom told me to say or something like that, or like my mom told me to go with that crowd or whatever. I don't know if you've seen it, but
no, I haven't seen that one. But I think just in general, when it comes to that, definitely think that teaching your kids about stuff like that is within the realm of teaching them sort of choices that they have to make as an adult for themselves.
Yeah.
When they're kids.
Yeah. I mean, there was a clip of Pierre getting grilled by reporters about it. And
he's the one that actually had a good, that's where I got that thought from. He's the one that actually came up with that.
It's a child. Like, you wouldn't trust a child to make a lot of decisions, but now you're
but like rent or
now you're talking about their gender. Like that's where it gets kind of tricky. It gets weird, man.
Yeah,
I don't know. A lot of things that are happening in like the school system are like, you hear about kids getting taught pornography, basically, like their books and whatnot, like basically have that, right? And you see clips of like drag queens going to schools and having like these drag shows at schools, and these kids are like anywhere, sometimes as young as like literally kindergarten.
Yeah,
they're watching this, and it's just like, brother, it's a little weird, man. Seems like a psyop to me. I don't know. Put your tinfoil hats on, but it seems like a psyop.
What's that? What's the psyop? What the fuck does that mean?
So there's this clip of this, I think, a Russian psychologist. I forget his name, but this is him like talking in like the late 80s or something like that, and he had an interview. And he was basically talking about like, if you want to demoralize a whole society, you do it. It takes time. You get into the school systems, you get, you know what I mean, where you try to influence them to have these beliefs that like make no sense, basically. And so if you want to weaken like an enemy of yours, but you don't have the resources of a way to do it through the traditional means of like military and like kind of like supplant your power through military means, then a way to do that is do it like, you know, behind the scenes, like subvert politics or influence the masses of your enemy through other means, right? And so it can be done through media, it could be done through like the educational system. And I think at least like of all the things that you see online, how much of that do you think is a portion of like other militaries, other countries that are trying to push their own like agendas to the greater zeitgeist? You know what I mean? So, for example, like you can argue that like certain apps that come from certain countries, they will influence different markets in different ways. Where in one algo, for example, they're going to encourage, or in one area of the world, they're going to encourage certain posts to go rise to the top and be popular, such as ones that are focused on like being smart and being educational and whatever. And then in another market, they're going to allow, like they're going to kind of tweak that algo to make it so that certain things rise to the top that are you know, eating at the soul and the moral fiber of that country. You know what I mean?
Right.
So encouraging kids to like be into certain things that are not in the interest of that country versus other things such as being like, you know, being smart, being good at math, being good in science. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is kind of tinfoil stuff. Honestly, we're kind of treading in there, but I know it's an interesting conversation.
It is an interesting conversation for sure. I personally don't think about like fucking if I'm doom scrolling or whatever, just consuming social media. I don't think about that.
It's working.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, like that could also just purely
Matrix
because of like just how good the algorithm, good the product is at keeping you fucking tuned in and keeping you scrolling.
For sure,
right?
it's definitely, that's part of it. Yeah,
right.
100%. But that could be treated as a weapon too, right?
It could be if you put your tinfoil cap on, for sure. It definitely could be. It's definitely within the realm of possibility. But I don't know. It's just not something that I think about often, which is probably a bad thing, you know?
I don't know.
It's like, what can you fucking do? Yeah. It's like, what is like, what are we going to do? It becomes so ingrained in our lives.
I think it's something that you like, if you have children, for example, I would think that you would want to like kind of help guide them navigate through the online world. You know what I mean? Because a lot of kids that you see today are just like on some, bro, can you imagine the stuff that we were looking up when the internet was like accessible to us? Now, like there was a way for you to monitor.
It's a different time.
You had a real way to monitor what your kids were going online, more so than you have now, especially if the kid already has their own cell phone. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was like all these apps for like parental guys and whatever, but like the internet of before is not the internet of today. There's just so much more shit now, you know what I mean? Whereas before, I don't know, man, like it's a generational thing, but I think from what I've heard, what I've seen anecdotally, in terms of what like kids that are as young as 11, 12, 13 are looking up online, it's a wild world, man. Like speaking to my, like, you know, the friends, the people that I train with that are teachers and whatnot. And
what are they saying?
Well, they're like looking up pornography as young as like 8, 9, 10 years old. You know what I mean?
But I mean, we were looking up that shit. We weren't intentionally looking for it, but we were looking through it through the TV. You know what I mean? Going through late night channel 32.
I guess,
TV.
but the tricky part now is like, okay, so that's one thing, but now they have apps like Snapchat. So now you have kids sending each other like nudes to each other at this point. You know what I mean? And that's where now they're getting sexualized at a much sexualized at a much younger age, and now we're talking about the whole drag shows aspect before, like, before this. I don't know, man. Is it just me, or does it feel like the moral fiber of society is just like crumbling in front of our eyes? Am I square for saying that? I don't know, man.
I don't know if it's I don't know if I would use crumbling, but it's definitely not the same as it was. Like,
it's not.
Yeah,
100% it's not.
It's changed so much from even when we were children.
Yeah,
growing up in completely different world. It feels.
And
like.
has it changed for the better? Do you think, or has it changed for the worse? What do you think?
I think overall, it's definitely changed for the better.
Overall for the better.
Overall for the better.
I think I would argue for the worse. How many guys are in
certain? Okay, if you're asking me like net comprehensively, like across the board, has our society has it become more advanced? Yes. Has there been more breakthroughs?
Oh, okay, you're looking at it overall. I'm looking at it from a certain aspect in terms of like from a moral, from like the values that you would have in a society. You know what I mean?
There's definitely a lot wider of a spectrum, I would think,
than it was before, because there's so many more different perspectives and aspects you can look at it from, right?
Well, there's so many different tools and things that we have access to nowadays that we just didn't have before, that didn't really put us in a position where we can kind of compare apples to apples.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? Like we didn't have iPhones before. We didn't have social media. We didn't have pretty much the entire world and access to the entire world's information in like our palms, pretty much, back in, when we were like 10 or, back in the early 2000s, for example. Right. And so I think, definitely there's the spectrum is wider, whether it's more good or more bad. I think the better question is it more, I don't know. Like, is it something that we can handle, kind of thing, as a species? And I don't think we can. Like, is it something that we have fully like grown into?
That's what I mean. I think it's like, I don't know. We're definitely going through a growing phase in terms of technology, right? I'm sure that people in the future are going to be like, oh fuck, that was some brutish days. Like they were tripping. Like,
here, just to complete that thought, I think, and to complete where I think you're going, it's like I don't think that we have developed. I don't think where conscious is in like the overall spectrum of time. I don't think it has developed for us, like Homo sapiens, to a point where we can even like comprehend the growth and grow with technology.
As it is right now.
Right now. Right?
It's what I was
why we're having things that is trickling down to society, right?
Yeah. I think that's part of it for sure.
Yeah.
It's an
whether it's
topic.
good or bad.
It's a broad ass topic.
I think it's more of a question of like how is this, like, now going back to AI and robots and technology in general, like how the fuck are we going to be able to, like, is it going to get worse, I guess, or is it going to get worse over time?
I definitely see a lot of possibilities where it can become a dystopia, man, especially when it comes to like the way that like from what do you call it, from a way that like Big Brother's kind of watching. Like it's definitely kind of headed in that direction, where a lot of things that you think are probably private are not private, and you can't be as anonymous as you could be from like 10, 20 years ago. Right. Like, especially, I don't know. It's that's where, things like Bitcoin and things like that, are really interesting as well. But just just the amount of surveillance that's going on, it's kind of wild, man. Like, I always thought that even 10 years ago, I always saw what the Chinese were doing, and I was always thinking, I'm like, I'm sure that the powers that be in the West are just salivating for that level of secure, like control and security and whatnot. I mean, look at what happened after 2001, right? Like with the NSA and the CIA were all collecting like all this information that they probably weren't supposed to be collecting, but now it's kind of like they're getting grandfathered in, and no one's really batting an eye.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. Like, it's going to be interesting because, I mean, everything is going electric nowadays, right? Like, everything across the board is going electric. So in a lot of ways, that means that there's going to be
interdependence.
Yeah, well, that, and also just like, I think of I take the example of a Tesla, right? imagine a future where you're driving your Tesla, because I think it's actually right now it's like this, where if they were to surveil you, like see that you're getting a repair or something that's outside of the Tesla environment,
they could break your phone.
They could just
break your car, basically.
Yeah, they could just stop you from fucking driving your Tesla.
Yeah, dude.
Right?
Yeah. They could literally, like, I mean, you own the Tesla, but you don't really own,
right?
You know what I mean? Because like all the software that makes it run and whatnot,
it's controlled.
They can literally control it. Yeah, they can literally control it if they really wanted to. You know what I mean?
Which is fucking wild.
It's kind of wild, man.
Yeah.
And that, again, that's just version 1, right? Now he's working on some droids. Can you like that's on some iRobot shit? Shout out Will Smith. That was a sick movie.
Well, even Neuralinks. You know what I mean? Like all.
Yeah, you hack a whole bunch of people. That's where it's just like I'm undecided. Like, do we think that Elon's like this mad scientist that he's just putting on this act? Like all I'm saying is he has the trappings to be the biggest supervillain of all time, bro. Yeah. I don't think so. I honestly, I think based on what I've seen, my gut tells me that he is doing it for the better of mankind, and he is a net positive. But he definitely, like, he has the potential. Like, all I'm saying, all the pieces are in place for him to be a maniacal, like, evil scientist, just like supervillain dude that just like becomes the president of the world. And then it's on some like Doctor Doom. You ever you know who Doctor Doom is in Fantastic Four?
Yeah.
So like there's this like one, I forget what the series is, but basically he kind of like fools the world to like seeing him as a savior, but really he's just like evil scientist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that shit.
Yeah. Could be. I'll bet against that though. I think genuinely the guy is just fucking. I mean, in general,
I think he's a good lad. I think, like I said, I think he generally is a good lad.
Man, like I don't know. That's a good question. Like, how many people in like the top 100 of the world, are like actually fucking evil ass motherfuckers?
I think that that's
like straight up just crooks.
And for those that are watching, this is probably coming off as some crazy doom and gloom, but the world is in a crazy place right now.
Yeah.
Like just as a time capsule type
the
of
world's an ugly place in general.
So the world, like, there's a lot of things that are building up to a crescendo right now. Let's just put it that way.
Well, I mean, I would say that just in general, it's just human nature. There's always going to be fucking good and bad actors, and
No,
I think timing wise, right now where we are. Yes, like current events, we definitely have the foundation that that's brewing right now. That would, we're at like a tipping point. I would say, yeah,
exact.
But depending on how these leaders and how these people with influence operate over the next decade or so, is going to, we'll see.
I'm hopeful. I'm definitely hopeful that there are people in places of power that actually are looking for the backs and of all of humanity or whatever.
Who knows?
Man, it's just like that old saying goes. It's just like, evil men only succeed when good men fail to do nothing. So
yeah. Well, that's
speaking of evil men. Do we think that Putin's a bad guy?
Yeah. So that was something that
happened this past week, right?
This past week.
Viral.
Crazy.
Tucker Carlson. I never thought this guy's an American hero, bro. But look at him.
Tucker Carlson is just.
Shout out Tucker.
He's going for it.
And he spoke up for he did a lot of things that you could kind of argue that he would kind of went softball, but of course, man, you're going with Vladimir Putin in
just getting
Russia's
on
like enemy like grounds, exactly. Like you're surrounded by basically people that could just fucking arrest you. You know what I mean?
Shoot you.
So of course that's going to be like some lofty, some softball type of conversation.
Yeah, like what are you gonna do? You're going to interrupt the guy and get him to talk about his intentions and
the fact that he's went up to bat for even that reporter that's arrested right now. He's like a 22-year-old kid. Apparently got caught like with like confidential information or whatever
in Russia,
and now he's in Russian jail. And Tucker like went up to bat. He's like, "Yo, like, you want to can you release him?" And like Putin was just like, we've made so many concessions in the past in good faith, and they've never been reciprocated. So I'm not saying that there's never going to be a time for him to go back home. Like there's a chance, but as of right now, like there's nothing that indicates that he's going home at this moment. long and short of it, right? But
yeah,
the fact that he asked, like, yo, shout out for him. Shout out to him for that.
Dude, he's going crazy. He's going for that 3P right now, bro. He's like when it comes to journalism and who are the fucking the people making waves, man. Tucker is he's on some boat shit right now.
A little bit of context on Tucker for those that don't know who he is. So he started out, I think he was on CNN where he really made a big splash at first, and he was always this guy that was wearing like a bow tie, like kind of like really like I don't know,
Great Arrow.
Kind of, I guess. Yeah, he wasn't very provocative back then, but anyway, so he ended up going to Fox. But he had a lot of troubles. Like, he's very open about having, like, you know, his issues with addiction and like I think he was drinking. I think he was doing some drugs as well. And he ended up getting sober or whatever. He ended up on Fox, and he was just a very, like, you know, Fox News being Fox News. He was just a very provocative dude.
On WWE of fucking,
yeah, but he would always go ham, right? He would go hard in the paint, and then eventually, I think he got fired from Fox. Fox let him go, and recently. Then he ended up on Twitter basically. And shout out Elon too,
completely independent,
because Elon was just, exactly, completely independent. So shout out Elon because for Tucker during especially the pandemic he actually was probably, in my opinion, one of the more leveled ones. Like, he actually still like would call out the Republicans on their shit too.
Right.
You know what I mean? Whereas CNN was obviously pro Democrats. It was just, that's where you really saw it, you know. And CNN back in the day, I remember watching it when like John King was still on, whatever. Like Wolf Blitzer back in the day too.
Oh,
like they were all
Wolf Blitzer.
Yeah, they were pretty, like, they were kind of seen as the more level ones. Like moderate. MSNBC back then was definitely like pro Democrat. And Fox News was definitely pro Republican, but it was like really during COVID where you really saw the true colors. Anyway, so Tucker ends up being independent, and then Elon apparently just made a point about like, yo, you can say whatever the hell you want. This is freedom, like, because that's part of the reason why Elon got Twitter, right? So that he can make sure that there's people can still exercise their freedom of speech. So that's all. Like, so now fast forward, and you know, Tucker's whole point about it was, you know, when it comes to you as a U.S. citizen paying for essentially this war, and there's no conversation with the leader of the other side, like, you know, you should be hearing this information. And so apparently they tried to do it like a few months ago, but it got stopped because there were like forces that you know, tried to get in the way of it. And they tried to do it again.
Made it happen.
Yeah, but he made it happen.
Made it fucking happen, man.
So what do you think? What was your impressions of it? Did you watch like a lot of it, or?
I watched a bit of it. I definitely think in general, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that's just batshit crazy. He seems very calculated. Pragmatic. He seems level-headed. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Of course, he's coming from just a guy who's genuinely got his country's best interest at heart. He knows the history. Like, he went to a whole fucking
900-year
history.
Yeah. I'll wrap it up in 2-3 minutes. Right. He goes on like a 20-minute
for a whole
a
whole party. But yeah, I mean, and then you compare that to the leaders that we got over here in the West, like Trudeau. And I mean, don't get me wrong, Trudeau is very well spoken. I saw him actually in it's almost kind of like they're at like this university hall, and it's almost like a debate class or something. You got the conservative versus the liberal side, and they kind of like
you saw him speak.
Well, like getting on just
you mean on Parliament Hill?
Parliament Hill.
Yeah. I some of those clips are the fact that Canada has that.
It's fucking
shout out, and that comes from Britain.
Yeah,
because they have the same thing in Britain as well.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like
it's cool, man. It's cool. Dope. I love it.
It's hilarious. It's fucking. It's comedy. Honestly, it's comedy.
Well, it really shouldn't be, but like I think
it is.
Pierre just like, yo, bro, he goes hard in the paint. Like
he does sometimes. He
it's
did.
Sick to watch.
It's like it's all pointed at him, where like it's all pointed at Trudeau, whereas Trudeau is like, He's a savant. This guy's a savant at just talking shit, bro.
And
like he's so
just
good.
going around, skirting around the
actual
question.
thing, being able to handle that,
keeping a straight face.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah,
he's a fucking G when it comes to that.
He's a black belt at it.
He's a black belt at just a bullshit artist.
You have to be.
Yeah.
You wouldn't survive if you didn't have that. 100%,
bro. I think just based on his ability to do that and his looks alone are the reason why he's been like our prime minister the past 10 years, bro.
Yeah.
But to finish that, I thought like you compare. So you have Trudeau, who is just basically he's a pawn, right? Biden is also a pawn too. In this, like,
you think it's a pawn? Like, what do you mean?
They're just speaking. They're speaking pieces. You know what I mean? Like
for the WEF.
Pretty well,
the World Economic Forum. Charles Schwab or whatever the fuck.
Well, for the higher powers, whoever they or them might be in the States, we know it's probably like
tinfoil hat alert. Tinfoil hat
alert. The Illuminati, you know what I mean? Secret society, you know. But yeah, like you can tell that Putin, compared to Putin is holding it down in Russia. Putin is the guy. He definitely knows what the fuck he wants to do, and he's getting after it.
And the thing I think that a lot of people don't realize about Putin as well, and I don't want this to be like a dick riding like show for Putin. That Putin's definitely done some wild shit that should not, like, he's basically assassinated a lot of his competition. He like part of this, like, I think a part of it is a lot of it is culture as well, just the way that Russia's operated for hundreds of years. But what people fail to understand, I think, that needs to kind of be talked about more is if he does, okay, let's say the West gets their way and he does get killed or he gets out of power. The power struggle that's going to follow that's going to happen in Russia. Like, he's the guy that's like, do you want to say he's holding it down? Yeah, he's the only guy that I think that can actually control all these different factions that exist within Russia. You know what I mean?
I see.
He's the guy with the actual pragmatic key. Like, I think he's the one that you're even though there's all this talk about him using nuclear weapons or whatnot, I think he's the least likely probably out of anybody that that would end up in power.
Like, you know after seeing that's the thing that stood out to me. Just the fact that he doesn't look like the type to just like wake up one day and just press the button.
And I think he shows the pragmatism of like that part in a way by having an appreciation for history.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that shows that he understands like kind of all the things that's going into this. And yeah, I really found it funny how he went into that tirade. And I think a lot of people online found it funny because it's like, you know, he went into this.
Well, the memes that came out of it,
are amazing because the thought that came to me was, I wonder if he intentionally did that, not only to explain the context of like how Ukraine's actually part of Russia, and it's just as if it's the equivalent as if New York were to say, hey, we want to be part of Russia's federation or whatever, and you know what I mean. So it's like having a state of America. That's basically what it is. Like, Ukraine is kind of like a state of Russia, like traditionally, like, you know, if you go back hundreds of years.
But, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, so what I'm getting at is, so they're all Slavic people. Like, the whole part of like his.
Oh, sorry, Ukraine was. Yeah, I thought you said New York.
Yeah, no. What I'm getting at is like, like what's happening in Ukraine or like Russia and Ukraine right now is as if like an enemy of the states were to convince New York State to be like, yo, come side with us for economic reasons.
Right.
And then when you do side with us, we're going to put all these military bases, nuclear weapons right there. How do you think the U.S. would respond to that?
Yeah.
Right. So that's basically what it is for Russia. Right. They're literally knocking on the door. But what I found really
is New York a better example, or is it more like a Hawaii?
I think it's arbitrary. Yeah. I think it's
because no, that's I don't think it's arbitrary because I don't know to the extent how much Ukraine as a country was looked at as a.
I think it's arbitrary in the sense that it could be Alaska. It could be like it's just to explain the context of it's.
It's a good example. It's a good way to put it. Yeah,
so it could be Alaska. So Alaska was Russian, and then they sold it to America, and then now.
Well, like what I'm curious about is like how independent was Ukraine before this war? You know, just
they're part of the USSR.
So they were
Soviet. Russia. Yeah, they were Russia. 100%.
Even like in the past decade.
Not in the past decade. No.
They become more independent over time.
So the context behind this is like there was a Cold War, right? And then the USSR was crumbling. This is the Soviet Union, right? So even Germany, part of Germany was part of the USSR. Yeah. So after, like in the 90s, after the USSR basically dissolved, part of the agreement of that was that that NATO would not go past a certain line.
Right.
And they've crossed that line habitually over the years, up until they reached Ukraine. And Ukraine was always like, no, that's the red line now.
Right.
And then what happened a few years ago in the Crimea, right? What happened, and then U.S. getting involved in tampering in the Ukrainian elections. You know what I mean? I don't know if there's how much fact there is behind that. I haven't really dug into that detail of it. But all this to say, I think going back to the original point is like, I don't know if it was intentional, whether or not he went into that tirade to just show to highlight the difference in terms of who's at the wheel or who's supposedly at the wheel. You have on the one hand, Sleepy Joe, who doesn't know the difference between the Mexican president and what did he compare it to? The Palestinians? Was it the Palestinians or something like that? Yeah. Versus Putin, who's went on like a literally like pretty solid summary of Russian history, basically.
Yeah.
In what, 10 minutes? So I don't know if he like intentionally did that or if it just, he originally just planned to kind of get into that just to give that context.
Yeah.
But it definitely starts a big contrast between the two leaders, right?
Yeah, that was the biggest takeaway. And I think for a lot of people that was just revealing. It was kind of eye-opening that you have this dude that we all thought to an extent was fucking crazy. And arguably, like, even after the interview, some people are still going to think that, which is fair.
That's propaganda, right? Brother. You know what I mean?
It's propaganda, but it's also just like it's an opinion thing too, right? Like
it is.
It's
100%.
It's an opinion thing. It's a cultural thing too. There's huge cultural differences as well. Like what people might see as crazy in this part of the world, even in Russia itself, there might be some people that are like, Putin, what the fuck? But then there's also the side 100%. Of like, yo, like we understand like where you're coming from, you know.
And like I said, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just to wrap that up. I think the main point is because I think that there's a lot of backlash for Tucker, and I think there's a lot of people that were unhappy that he did that. He went ahead and did that, and for it, like I think the pursuit of truth, the pursuit of trying to get information to the public so that people can become more knowledgeable.
Well, Tucker makes a good point, man. It's like your tax dollars are going into this war. You have a right to understand the other side, the full story. Because otherwise, like, man, the propaganda machine is on overdrive nowadays. I don't know if you feel that same way, but it's 100% in overdrive.
So
just by way of not including all the information is almost like inherently you're lying to the public, right?
Yeah. The bottom line is like you gotta have people that are it's looked at as a risky thing that's going to there's a lot of people that are not happy that he did that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, in the same vein, it's I would say it's a net positive thing that he did that.
1,000%. People are unhappy, I think, for the wrong reasons. I think people are unhappy because he's going against the narrative that's gone that they believe in.
Yeah.
Right.
In the pursuit of finding truth, in pursuit of trying to get
I mean, look at I think
journalism out there.
COVID really highlighted the fact that a lot of people generally are kind of NPC about their information, and ignorance is bliss. And sometimes if somebody's saying something that is in opposition to that belief that you might hold, where it's not a belief that you've actually done any research on, you're just kind of regurgitating the beliefs that's been handed to you by whether it be the media or just the general zeitgeist, like you see online. And the moment somebody is offering an opinion that goes against that, man, it's the whole us versus them mentality, the echo chambers that people are getting into. It doesn't really constitute great conversations and discussions in a fruitful way. And I think what Tucker's really doing is adding more fuel to the fire in terms of actually having these conversations. Because at the end of the day, like even those people are unhappy, like at least people are talking about it, right? More than they were prior to him having that interview.
Yeah, definitely think there's a lot of NPC energy out there,
and it's natural. There's always been NPCs. You know what I mean?
I just think that there's just a reluctance nowadays to, and our phones are a big culprit of this too, in the way journalism and social media and news in general is shared. Everyone just most people opts for the easy route. No one wants
1,000%.
No one wants to critically think about things or break things down, or try to have this perspective of looking at it from both angles.
Well, I mean, especially during COVID, again, it's highlighted, and you be having these conversations, and some people that you are friends with, like, and don't get me wrong, I love them. And there are times where they're just like, you know what, I don't want to get into it. I don't really care. Like, I'm just gonna listen to what the news says. It's just easier that way. You know what I mean? And like, they didn't say that verbatim, but that's basically what they were saying.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're just like I trust the news and whatever. But man, I don't know. Like that's where it's just like, okay, well, if that's the case, then.
Well, there's a line, right? There's like for most people, and it's, fair play to them. If you don't care, you don't care.
Exactly.
You know
fair play to them. Exactly.
Fair play, right?
Yeah.
But don't have that, but then also have this thing where you're kind of holding on to stuff that you've heard.
Holding on to a belief that you didn't really
either
do the work to get there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or do the work to get there, right? And so I think that's the big takeaway when you're judging things, like this whole situation with Ukraine, Russia, or even like Palestine and Palestine and Israel, right?
Israel, yeah. Critical thinking just needs to come back.
Yeah, exactly. Try to, if you find yourself and you care about some of these topics to a certain extent, then you almost have to feel obligated to try to, break it down a little bit more.
Yeah. 100%.
Not try to be too one-sided.
Yeah, and the other thing as well,
because these things are so nuanced.
They are so nuanced.
They're so nuanced.
The more you know, the better that you.
Yeah.
Like, all I'm getting at is
impossibly nuanced.
Having a good discussion with somebody where, like, just be open-minded in terms of being proven wrong, right? Where, a lot of people will hold on to these beliefs and stand, like, literally die on these hills.
Die on that hill.
For these beliefs that they've actually never, like, how did you even get to that
It's
conclusion?
Just the pride and ego of wanting to be right.
It goes against it. Well, it's unearned too. Okay, I can understand if you're a scientist and your life's work for 30 years has been trying to prove this particular
theory. Be more empathetic towards that person.
And then somebody comes in and then gives you some, like, new information that is actually valid. You know what I mean? But obviously you're going to try to stand up for your beliefs. And then, like, in an ideal world, you would battle those two ideas together. And then whichever idea is actually valid. Like, to me, I would hope that scientist has, like, the wherewithal to be like, you know what? Thank you, because now you saved me from another 30 years of going down this direction, right? But a lot of people that have these beliefs are not these scientists that have put in the work to actually do that, to come to that conclusion.
Right.
A lot of it is just, like, handed to them from the narratives that they read on the news or they see online. You know what I mean?
Which is how those people that produce that content wants you to think.
Exactly. They have their own agendas.
Right.
Who are they answering to?
Right.
Have you seen those clips of those news agencies where it's literally they're all reading from the same script?
Well, isn't that how they are all?
Okay. Regional news used to be able, like they would be regional news.
They all have
the
fucking.
But the thing is, now they're all, like, kind of independent. It was like kind of mom and pop shops back in the day. You could literally live in a city and you have, like, a TV network, and you're pretty much, you don't have to answer to anybody type of deal because you're running that TV network for that region. But then now I think because all of these different stations have been bought up by the bigger conglomerates, the top-down messaging is just so much more coordinated now because they all answer to the same entity, right? So now if I'm
across
the board, there's only really like 6-7 big multimedia like networks that operate out of the U.S.
Yeah.
So now if you have the same 6-7 organizations that are, if they want to push a certain narrative, right, they could all just coordinate if they really wanted to and push that narrative, right?
All right, I gotta take a piss. I can't hold it anymore.
All right, we gotta take a.
What
time are we at?
We're gonna take off the tinfoil. We're an hour deep. But
all right, we should take the tinfoil hats off.
What else happened this week? Well, it was the fucking New Year, the Chinese New Year.
Okay, Fa Choi. How it goes?
So it been my second Gong Hei Fa Choi that I celebrated.
Yeah. Get some red envelopes.
The lady. The red envelopes. I don't know what they're called again. Just red envelopes, I guess. But nice little grocery bill taken care of by the fam. So that's great. But man.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
What?
They like the parents take care of groceries for the kids?
Oh no! I mean, like we use the money towards like.
Oh God.
Yeah. Using the money as using the gift of money and wealth for groceries.
Gotcha.
That's the goal. But it was Chinese New Year. It was it's the year of the fucking dragon. It's the Lunar New Year.
Shit.
This shit is fucking. I never realized that 25%, 1/4 of the world celebrates Chinese New Year. Like they're on the loony. They call it the loony solar calendar. Whereas we, in like the rest of the 3/4 are in Gregorian. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I went down a little bit of a fucking rabbit hole with that shit because on the drive home I was like, why the
nerded
fuck?
the fuck out on calendars?
Yeah. Like why the fuck did they even?
It's Christianity, baby. That's our domination.
So it's Gregorian.
Well, it started off as Greek.
Yeah.
And then it became Christianity, like from Christianity, basically.
So the thing
that's why it's 2023.
2020
because after like AC after Christ,
right? Yeah. After Christ, yeah. Oh, so then it started, I guess.
That's why it's 2000. Yeah,
year one,
when Jesus was born.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, but then as far as like there being 360
BC before Christ.
Yeah. But as far as there being like 365 days out of the year versus 354, I think on lunisolar, which causes the difference, which is why they celebrated.
That's why it's all fragmented now.
Yeah, but man, it made me realize or maybe start thinking like on the drive home, I don't know, maybe there's some fucking kush laced in the food that I got, some of those warm Chinese desserts. So I was just tripping, bro. I was like, how the fuck, like, do you even like, how the fuck do you calculate that shit? Like people, so Gregorian
astronomy is wild.
Astronomy is
like ancient people's understanding of astronomy is unbelievable.
Exactly.
Wild.
Exactly. That's the part that messed me up the most. Looking at it the next day, it was like, man, these motherfuckers from like BC times, like the Mesopotamian days,
and arguably now, like even before that,
right?
Yeah. But have you heard of the Younger Dryas impact?
No.
12,000 years ago, there's this whole theory that there was an advanced civilization that we don't even really understand yet. Younger, I think it's Younger Dryas impact theory. That's what it's called.
I heard young dry humpers, bro.
Yeah. So it's like this meteor shower that happened like 12,000 years ago that wiped an advanced civilization that predates the ancient Egyptians. And they had some advanced technology that we have no idea or how to reproduce or whatever. And that's what actually broke up like a lot of the Ice Age, for example. That's why we have a lot of our cultures that all talk about this great flood. It's really something that's fascinating to look into. The scientists that like your archaeologists or whatever, your traditional archaeologists are really against this theory. Because again, this goes back to that whole scientist example that I brought up earlier, because everybody's been operating on this understanding that, the ancient Mesopotamia was our first civilization. But there's shit that predates that.
Yeah.
Like there's these tunnel systems in Turkey, for example, that were able to hold tens of thousands of people. There's this like a line of like soot that from a certain layer, found around the world, all from like 12,000 years ago, that it indicate that like it was scorched earth, which would have driven people down into like tunnels and whatnot.
Oh, fuck.
Bro, it's really cool to like listen and like get into. But anyway, so
I don't know
what are we talking about. How did we get here?
Yeah, how the fuck? Astronomy, I guess.
Astronomy, that's right. Yeah.
So these motherfuckers had like, I guess, like these, I don't know, they would just carve it into stone, but they figured it out. They figured out that there's the time it takes the Earth to fully rotate the sun.
Yeah.
365 days, and in other parts of the world they factor in the moon, which is why you see that little bit of a discrepancy
between the two. Yeah.
And as far as how they did it, I don't know the details because it goes way over my head.
Literally pattern of the stars. That's how they found the North Star, because that North Star never moved. And that was the only one. That was the only star from a night, like, you know, from a weekly or monthly basis that they realized that doesn't move. It's crazy to me that how. What I find wild about that, or at least a detail about that, is how a lot of Asian peoples understood that, but then you fast forward to, like, you know, the Renaissance times in Europe, where you had people, even before the Renaissance, you had people that literally got killed for even suggesting that the Earth wasn't the center of the universe, that suggesting that the Earth wasn't round. You know what I mean? You had your Galileo Galileis that got executed because of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now, you know, now fast forward, obviously we understand a little bit more of that, but then you still have your flat earthers. You have people that, you know, don't believe that space is space. Yeah.
Bizarre.
Yeah. But it's cool, man. I think there's a lot that we don't know about the like ancient civilizations. I find that stuff so fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is.
Graham Hancock. He has a Netflix documentary on that Younger's Dryer's impact theory that I was telling you about. He was did an 8-9 part series or some shit like that. That goes into it.
So yeah, I started watching. Well, I watched the first 2 episodes and then stopped after that. But that was the series that's like the only series that he has on there, is it?
That he talks about it. Yeah. So Graham Hancock's been on Joe Rogan's podcast like a whole time. That's how I even found out about all this stuff. Yeah. Was just like Joe's interest in that field. And I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Put me on Graham Hancock, and yeah.
Yeah, great. He's a fucking G for sure. So just finishing that, going down that little rabbit hole in calendars, because something else that I thought of the next day that I never really understood or quite grasped was how you're on your computer and you're able to look at, you know, what the 21st day of January 2079 is, and then it just so happens to land on like a Wednesday or something like that. Like, how the fuck did people like figure? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could do it without automation.
But how do you plan for like?
It's literally math. It's
Easter
literally just
Sunday or some shit.
Math.
You know, it's just algorithms. It's math. But like, is it like a secret society that
got
together?
No. You could
everyone agreed on the algorithm, like across the board, like everyone in the world. You know, like
this is why I was saying this is a reflection of Christianity's domination. Right, because the reason why the whole world is on that is because like that culture dominated a lot of world politics for a long time, and they were always the most powerful empires. Like if you look at the Roman Catholic Empire, like that was the one that dominated like the Western world for a long time during that era, and a lot of those countries that came as a result of those cultures, like France, England, like all of them like are from Latin based or Roman based cultures, right? They're the ones that ended up colonizing the world. And obviously, as they colonized, they were putting people on like, hey, this is the date, actually, not whatever the fuck you're looking at. This is the fucking date. Oh, you have an issue with it? You want to see a sword, bro? You know what I mean? You want to see this gun? So that's how it came to be that, you know, that the whole world basically follows that.
You know what that makes me think is, what do we have some fucking hate people or whatever, these dumb people that get fucking defensive about time zones and stuff like that, and dates, and you know, people get offended over just like statues of like people from the past, like particularly in Toronto, where you have Dundas that's getting renamed because it was. What if you had the same thing for people that are like, no, it's not 2023 or it's not 2024. It's actually fucking.
We have to get out of this like Catholicism.
Out of this
Christianity is like a relic of the past, and
it's not even a time zone thing. It's literally
just the concept, the framework of us using something from Christianity.
Well, sir, it's actually 11, 25,000.
We should actually go back to stones because inches and centimeters.
There's definitely a group out there
it's
like
offensive to because it's actually a reflection of like white and the white man, colonizing the world. So we should go back to something more. It gets that gets silly, man. Like
it does.
I can understand. I mean, at the end of the day, for better or worse, whatever those like, obviously, if they were like mass murderers, that would be a different story, I think. But even if that were the case, if they had some sort of hand influencing the way that things are today, man, it was a different time. We can't use today's standards on the on like historical figures because they lived within the context of that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you want to bring up like that's why people like have issues with like George Washington because he had slaves. People have issues with
everyone had slaves.
Thomas Jefferson, for example, had 3 slave children and 2 of them he's still enslaved. Thomas Jefferson is like part of the a reason why America became independent. Yeah. So it's just like, okay, well, yeah, that might be true, but he lived within the context of his time. And if you can argue that even despite that, there's still a net positive that he brought to the world, which is being part of like the founding fathers of America. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think it's not fair for someone to be judged. Like, I mean, I guess you could still judge them based on, because like, so for example, that argument kind of, you have to factor in, okay, like, let's say some music stars from the past. Bro, it was common for like rock stars to be sleeping with like 15, 16-year-olds. That stuff, okay, I can understand. You have a point there. You know what I mean? I wouldn't agree with that, right? Slavery, I don't know. Like, would you? I don't agree with that either. You know what I mean? But did they give net positives overall? I think so.
Yeah.
Right.
It's again nuance, man.
Yeah,
it's nuance. It's not just because fucking so and so had a slave that we should fucking tear down his thing. You know, like, why are we talking about all the things, his other contributions?
Exactly. Well,
having the fucking slave or two.
I think we pick and choose, though. I think we pick and choose. We don't hold everybody to the same standard because, on the one hand, you have like R. Kelly, who's like, I'm not gonna stop listening to R. Kelly. That guy's a creep. But on the other hand, you have Michael Jackson. It's like all these allegations of like child predator or whatever. But I'll still jam out to Michael Jackson. You know?
Yeah, I mean? There is a little bit of pick and choose in there, and the bottom line is no one's fucking perfect, man. And I think renaming or tearing down like these statues and these fucking renaming street names is it's a little distasteful, honestly, just because like it's so like renaming Dundas is a little distasteful in my opinion, and I call me out.
I don't agree with it.
The fuck.
I don't agree with it either.
Yeah,
I think it's a reflection of a soft society, to be honest with you, in a sense that like, you're focused on the wrong shit. I think it's the fact that you have it so comfortable where you're at that you have time to focus on shit like that in the first place. You know what I mean? Like, if I was in another country where I had to focus on getting fucking food every day, I would not be focused on that, you know?
Well, like, I mean, it's a testament to how
good people have it here, man.
Yeah,
I think exactly. And even if that's the case, like, put your energy towards something else. I think the juice is just not worth the squeeze on that, in my personal opinion. I don't even know the context behind Dundas. Is it just because he had slaves? Is that what it was?
I don't know, actually. That's a good...
Let's look it up. Like, what the fuck? What's the issue with Dundas? And then they're going to name it something that doesn't even relate to anybody else except for like black people, I think, right? Like they're going to call it Sankofa. Is that what it is?
I think, it is an attempt by the city to strip landmarks of the Dundas name over Henry Dundas's reputed connections to the transatlantic slave trade.
Yeah.
So it's slavery.
Part of slavery. Yeah.
But what's it going to be renamed to?
I think Sankofa, yeah. Phew. Which is an African term, if I remember correctly.
I think so. Yeah, it's like something for Easter.
There's an after hours in Hamilton called Sankofa. I just don't I don't associate very many good things with that word.
Really? You
see some raunchy, dredgy shit from Sankofa past midnight, brother. Oh my God.
Sankofa is a principle derived from the Akan people of Ghana that one should remember the past to make positive progress in the future. So on that note, remember the fact that, Dundas was
exactly. You should talk about it.
To talk about it, yeah.
It should be a conversation.
What you were saying earlier is so true. Is that instead of looking at the past as this kind of like thing that we have to do an apples to apples comparison to, because all of our morals in our society today is just so much better. And we should hold them to that same standard. Is one, unfair, but two, we should kind of be looking at it, or instead be looking at it as like, bro, that's our history.
It's an opportunity to inform. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's an opportunity for us to get better as a country, because it's kind of how you were to look at your past flaws and stuff like that.
It's context for who you are today.
Exactly.
Yeah. 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
That's context for who we are as a country, as a people. Today is because of the fact that we went through that shit.
Exactly.
That's what it was. It was just, slavery is just what it was back in the world, back in the day. In that time.
It's still happening today. That's what a lot of people don't understand. It still happens today in certain countries, certain places in Africa, certain places in the Middle East. That you call
they're going through their phases, man. It's like how
commonplace,
we went through our phases through like our emo phase or our it's angsty teenager phase.
Still culminating to a net positive, I would say 100%. It's growing pains, man. It's like a lot of it is like we're still trying to figure out a way to us for us how to kind of operate given the context of where technology's at, and it's gonna take time. You know what I mean? And I don't know, like as long as no big war happens or whatever, and you know what's scary is that some people would tell you war is gonna be good because it's gonna reset a lot of these societal problems, because once war happens, you think that people would be arguing about gender fluidity and all that stuff. I mean, that's a fair point. Fair point.
Could very well happen.
You want to tell? It's like you want to. It's kind of like a lot of it is from like the red pills. Like, if there's war, you have you think all these women would be talking about like feminism and da 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 da. You think they would go out to the front lines as well?
Yeah,
but. I mean, I would like to think that if everyone kind of tried to better themselves and really had honest conversations with themselves and others with a more open mind, more empathetic to each other, and not just saying, oh, if you don't believe what I believe, then you're wrong, then I think you could still do it that way without kind of going to those drastic measures. But whether or not do I think that society as a whole has that in them, I think I like to hope that they do, but I just don't know.
As long as there's a number of people that have that in them, I think that's the people that at the end of the day are going to make the most meaningful contribution. I mean, we can only aspire to be that kind of person, right? Like I aspire to be that kind of person. Just I think bottom line is, don't be an NPC. Don't be an NPC.
Think for yourself.
Man.
Think critically. You know what I mean? Don't look at the things face value. And try to just don't be a dick, man.
Just don't be a dick.
Be kind to people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Be more fucking nice to people, man.
Be more nice.
That's it. That's all you need to do, man. Like,
try to be the best version of yourself.
We have it fucking great here, right? There's a lot to be happy.
There's a lot to be happy for.
So let's I mean, on the note of I think it's very fitting to mention this now on the note of changing street names and tearing down statues. Did you see something else happened this week? Kobe statue being put up?
I saw that. Yeah.
What are your
What's
thoughts?
the general reaction? I mean, I thought that the pose was kind of mid, to be honest with you, but apparently Kobe's the one that chose that. So
yeah, but I mean, also too, it's like
I've seen it. Yeah.
Kind of
looks like a cancer patient almost.
A little bit, right? A little like some what do they call it, Paralympics or some shit.
Paralympics?
Yeah.
Like he's special needs?
Yeah, a little bit, like it doesn't look good, man.
It's not, okay.
They did him wrong a little bit.
Who has the best statue? I mean, I know Jordan's statue
100%.
is like, you can't get how do you get better than Jordan's statue, bro? Okay, let's look at what's LeBron's statue look like.
I don't even know if he has a statue right now.
Does he have a statue? He doesn't have a statue in Cleveland? I could have sworn he has a statue in Cleveland.
I don't think he does. But maybe look at Jordan's, bro.
Jordan's is OP, bro.
Jordan's nasty.
That is so nasty. And it's right in front and center of the United Center.
That's so nasty.
That's so gangster, man. I love that. That statue is so sick.
You can't beat that.
No, so if you were to compare like Kobe's versus his, no, 100%.
Kobe's, they did him wrong, man.
Look up best statues. Look up best statues in front of like sports venues. Let's rank them.
Best statues, sports. Oh, fuck it. Oh, Shaq's is pretty cool.
I think it's the one where with him dunking and his legs are up, right?
Yeah.
That one's pretty dope.
That one's dope. Here, let's look.
I think
look at this together. Roberto Clemente, pretty good. Willie Mays looks pretty sick.
Yeah, that's cool. I like
that's a dope one. I don't know who that is. Bobby Orr. That's pretty gangster.
Yeah. Jackie Robinson. That's pretty dope.
Stealing the base. Jax is nice. Shaq's is fucking
that's dope.
That's on the same level as Jordan.
Yeah. That's iconic.
It is.
That's pretty dope.
On the podium.
Yeah.
Tommy Smith and John Carlos. Eve Gleason. Oh, it's a Super Bowl today, eh?
It is a Super Bowl,
You have any plans for that?
Not really. I was going to go home to hang out with mom and dad and Abby.
Yeah. Yeah, Jordan's is obviously
I think Jessica's going to come too, so you just reach for a couple hours.
Yeah. But, I mean, yeah, Jordan's is goated, but going back to Kobe for a little bit, they did the boy wrong, man.
Apparently that was the pose that he chose.
The pose is one thing, but it's like the execution.
I hear you,
bro.
I hear you. It could. I don't know. I wonder if it could grow on us, but I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Like I remember when I first saw the new Raptors logo after like the claw, I was like, what is this? I wasn't really feeling it.
The one after the
remember
the original?
Like the
one with the actual raptor.
There was a ball and then the three.
Yeah,
that's
the one we have today.
Claws. No. The one that we had prior to the one that today was the ball was separate from the three claws. Now what we have today is the ball and the three claws are built in. Right. So I remember thinking like, you don't remember the original logo, bro? Yeah, look it up.
No, the original logo was the little raptor.
Of course, but I'm saying I'm saying prior to like this logo of like the ball version kind of logo.
Oh, like this shit.
Wait, with the.
Like this,
like that. That was like I'm like, yo, that one looks way better than the current
one like today.
Yeah,
like
but that one grew on me. Actually,
this did grow on me as well.
My first reaction to it was like, what the fuck, bro?
Well, I don't know. There's something about this logo that's still like the old OG.
Bro, I had like
1995 logo.
I remember still like being 5-6 years old trying to draw that literally every other night.
Huh.
And then one day, like, Dad actually ended up drawing it, and he showed me, he's like, this is how you do it.
Really?
Yeah.
He did?
Yeah, it was one of my...
Was it good?
It was dope. Yeah, Dad's a sick drawer, bro.
He's a sick drawer?
Yeah, he's sick.
Yeah, man.
I wish I kept that, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
Early memories.
This definitely did grow on me as well. I, honestly, when I look at the one that you mentioned, the one with the 3 fucking claws above it, I just think back to the Bargnani days and the Jose Calderon days.
Oh, that's what it comes back. Yeah,
I don't get it. I'm not too happy with that.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Which is fair, man. Those were the dog days of being a Toronto fan.
It was, and then this, I think.
Then Bosch came through.
What it turned. Well, yeah, Bosch was in the latter half of that phase,
exactly,
and then it turned into the Rosen era.
Bosch, yeah,
that was a good time. But I wanted to get your thoughts on this one cool thing that I also saw this week that I thought was a pretty funny food for thought. But how do you feel about paying for, if it's your buddy? Okay, I'll give you some context. It's your friend's birthday.
Yeah.
And that friend decides to go to a super expensive restaurant to celebrate his or her birthday, and he invites you. He invites me. He invites both of us. And I'm talking like, 4-star Michelin,
3-star Michelin,
yeah, 3-star. Sorry,
yeah.
4-star fucking kind of dinner. You know what I mean? Like a very expensive bougie dinner.
Yeah.
And we go and we have to pay for our own meals.
Yeah.
Are you on the side of being okay with paying for your own meal and attending your friend's birthday, or do you think that it should be your friend's responsibility for the one that organizes it to also pay for your bill?
I think it's a tax bracket question. I think I think it depends. I think if you have the means to do that, then yeah, absolutely. I think it's completely fine.
Do you think it's your friend should feel any way about
tax bracket question?
Yeah,
because if that it depends. So if that friend is making like what we're making, for example, and then we're gonna like, are you asking me like if you told me, yo, we're gonna go to this restaurant and it's $500 and everybody like for a fixed menu or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll probably be like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
$500, bro? Like, like who do you think you are, bro? Like who you know what I mean? Like, you're my brother, but like, go fuck yourself. I'm not going to pay $500 for your birthday, bro.
Right.
Go fuck yourself.
But you would come if I pay for you. If it was
yeah. But then I will be thinking to myself, you're why? Like, why do we have to like, because I can think of way better ways for us, like at this current moment, for us to be spending that money.
Yeah.
But let's just go to friggin' Chuck's, bro.
Right.
Like let's go have some fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if I got to a point where I can literally pay for everybody and it doesn't hurt, like there's no sweat off my back, I'm going to do that 100%. I'll take care of it. It's not like anything different from what I do in the Philippines.
Right.
If I would take out our cousins to like a nicer restaurant that is not accessible to everybody and I could afford it and it's going to cost me like $500 to feed everybody and feed everybody nicely, I'll pay that $500. You know what I mean? But if now like, it costs 2,000 pesos for everybody. No, we're going to that 500. Like I don't have the means to do that. It's not responsible for me to do that. Right. But
do you think it's responsible for the person to choose that restaurant?
No, you'd be a dick.
You'd be a dick.
You'd be a dick. 100%.
So yeah,
because like if you had a little bit more money than your friends, and you have you're more used to being able to afford a more expensive dinner. And then now you're asking your friends to come and you're asking them to spend, $500 on a dinner, even though everybody is maybe like making just an average salary. That's a dick move. That's a dick move because you're fully aware that everybody that everybody doesn't necessarily have the financial means. It's not to say that they can't afford it.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't be responsible of them to spend $500 on the one day.
Yeah.
When they're paying a $2,000 rent, for example. That's silly.
Then, I agree with you 100%. There's this girl, this TikTok influencer that's right now getting ripped apart for having that same sentiment.
Really?
But she's having a sentiment that's a little bit more different from ours, where she thinks that if that dick of a person to make that suggestion for their birthday, that person ought to pay for everyone else as a solution. As a way to go.
Yeah, that's a valid solution.
Which is a valid solution,
100%.
right? But she's getting fucking ripped apart for that. So I'll show you the clip and then let me know your thoughts because it's pretty funny. But I think she has a point, man. It's legit. Pull this up. Go. I already have it up. What the fuck's wrong with me? It's what I prepped for.
I think it's unfair when someone chooses a really expensive restaurant for a birthday dinner.
My opinion that if you invite people to a restaurant of your choosing for your birthday, you should pay for everybody. I know that's going to be deeply unpopular, but I just think that you can't pick a restaurant and ask people to come and celebrate you and pay for themselves. And in some friend groups, it's even expected that you split the cost of the birthday person too. If I invite a group of people somewhere to celebrate me, that's my treat because I organized it and I'm asking them to come. Pick an expensive restaurant and expect everybody to pay. And in this person's case, then get pissy when they say, I'm sorry, I can't afford that, is really bad manners.
No, I disagree with what she's saying because it depends on the friend group, man. Like, if the standard is
that's the standard that's set,
exactly, yeah. I don't see anything wrong with that. Because it works the other way around. Okay, so for example, if you went out with Maisie for a dinner, and it was your friend's birthday. Sorry, it was Maisie's friend's birthday. And then Maisie's friends is like, oh, sorry, it's Maisie's birthday. Let's just say it's Maisie's birthday.
Yeah.
Okay. And then all our friends show up, and then they say it's like, oh, like it's your girl, you're the man here. Like you have to pay for everybody. I'm not gonna pay for my own meal. Like, how would you feel?
Yeah, I'll be fucking pissed.
Yeah, I'd be like, what the fuck? Yeah. No. You're here to celebrate my friend. Like, you should pay for your dinner.
Yeah, 100%.
You're all like, you all do your own job. Now, obviously, if you chose a restaurant where it's not affordable for everybody, okay, that's where it's kind of like,
that's where you have to draw a line.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you think? What are your thoughts on what did she say? She said that it's weird culturally to split the bill for the person that's being celebrated.
I think it's cultural. It's weird to her culturally because she doesn't come from a culture that we have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
do you think she deserves to get fucking flamed this hard?
I don't think so. I see where she's coming from.
Yeah.
But I think she's coming from a really
different cultural.
I think she's coming from
setting.
a different what do you call it? Tax bracket, number one.
Be.
And I think she probably comes from a different culture in general. I don't know. Like, I don't think that she deserves to get flamed for it, but I don't agree with her general stance. Like, I think the term that I'm looking for is like, it comes off a little bit out of touch.
Could be.
Because I
But
feel
that's
like
your opinion, which is
more common.
Yeah.
I think everybody generally, it's from my like experience that people are just going to be splitting. And if not, like, look at when we were taking out, it's a great example, bachelor party for Hubert. In some cultures, you'd be like, no, it's Hubert's responsibility to pay for everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But no, for us, it's like, no. We're actually, if anything, we're now paying, we're all splitting his share for the bachelors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. And I think it's honestly, looking at it now and talking about it, it's a great way to close this one up because I think the main takeaway here is because we talk about so much about how social media and the way society is right now is kind of degrading a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. But I think the devil's in the details with that. I think at the end of the day, it's how you use it and how you interact with it. And so in this case, it's funny, we kind of like brushed off this point, but she's getting killed for this, right? Mm-hmm. And you have different people that have different views on this particular topic, but that's kind of the beauty behind it. That's kind of the beauty behind social media and the way we're interacting with it. We're kind of just like, we have our opinions about it too. Like, we think she's out of touch. We think that she might be from a different tax bracket. That's us trying to pursue that particular topic through her lens, try to be more empathetic, more understanding of where she's coming from, right? And having what we think is a conversation around
a civil discussion around it.
Discussion around it. Discourse. Instead of just being like, oh, she's fucking stupid for having that, you know what I mean? We're trying to loop in some empathy around there, some different perspectives.
Emotions can cloud judgment.
And I think that's the key takeaway from today's episode, because we talked a lot about that. We talked a lot about not taking things at face value, being able to critically think more, which I think is just bottom line. Like, that's such a useful skill.
That should just be baseline, like, in every human, honestly. And that comes with education. And that's where, like, I think the whole theory behind, like, the more educated people are, the net positive.
Education, but also it's checking your ego.
Yeah.
It's checking 100%. Your fucking ego 100%, letting go of that pride.
Having that self-reflection and being like, why do I hold that belief? Sometimes I find myself holding a belief very strongly, and then I actually think to myself, like, wait, why do I believe that way so strongly? And then sometimes there are moments where I'm like, actually, that's just like, that's being held together by a very frail structure.
Yep.
It's not something that I actually looked into. It's just like, I feel that way because I have an emotional attachment to feeling that way.
Yeah.
And if it turned out to be false, that's where, like, oh shit, like, actually, no, I'm holding on to that belief, not because of any kind of like logic or reason.
You just don't want to be wrong.
I don't want it to be wrong. And then that's where it's like, okay, at least I recognize that. And now let's
at least
come closer to the truth.
Yeah, come closer to the truth. Have the humility to be like, I'm stupid. Like, I'm not smart. I'm not a scientist.
Yeah, we are not political analysts by any means here. This is just like us having an opinion about, like, based on what we've seen, based on our experiences, for example. Like,
and all of it could fucking be wrong or out of the realm of possibility.
Part of our human experience.
Exactly. Yeah. At the end of the day, as long as you recognize that, don't be too much in your own fucking world. Try to fucking expand past that, I guess is what we're trying to say.
Oh, yeah, brother.
Try to be more informed. That's the whole point of this pod. Perhaps we're just trying to be more informed, more knowledgeable about the world, like we always say. And part of that is having the humility to look yourself in the fucking mirror. Take a cold, hard look at yourself in the mirror and say that you're dumb, I'm dumb, and we're just trying to get smarter.
Oh yeah, brother.
And with that, I think we could call it.
We out.
We'll be back to you next week, every Sunday, folks. Enjoy this Sunday, the 11th. Enjoy the Super Bowl weekend.
Super Bowl.
It's Super Bowl time, baby. We got the fucking
49ers and the Chiefs, baby.
49ers and the Chiefs, baby. It should be a good one. 6 p.m. Eastern time. All right.
Let's get it.
Peace.